Okla not leaving his rear end there. Locked hands. Able to roll through. Did he catch him on his back?
He's got him! He's got him on his back! Oh my goodness!
Look out! It's Ramos!
He's looking for the fall! He's looking for the fall. If he just holds him here, he's going to pull one of the biggest upsets in NCAA wrestling history.
Stepped across right there.
And he's looking for the fall. He's looking for the fall.
Oh, my goodness! The unthinkable in Tulsa! And the king has been knocked off the throne! Ramos knocks off lead to go to the finals!
Matt Ramos of Purdue has knocked off one of the greatest college wrestlers of all time. What an incredible finish.
Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Corey Palmtano, that's it. Head coach Tony Ersland, and as we were talking before we came on air, Coach, you did some things in Tulsa last week. A week and a half ago. Figure we might as well get together and talk about them. This was, well, we've all got a lot of thoughts. The wrestling world has a lot of thoughts on some of the things that transpired. What are your thoughts on just a weekend in total?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind, and even though there was a lot of success, it's probably hard to believe I accumulated more gray hair than I had, just because obviously the wins were great, but right, like it was nip and tuck as you'd expect, but between both Parker and Matt, like late comebacks, scoring at the end of periods, just winning crucial points in big moments like you need to have the tournament you want, was kind of the order of the day for those guys. And so it was great that they had the confidence to finish what they had started, but man, at the same time, it was nerve-wracking, to be a coach and have to sit there and watch it all unfold was a bit crazy, to say the least.
I'll echo Tony's sentiments in the fact that, it was bad for my heart. Like those guys, you talk about Matt and Parker specifically, like the comebacks and the being behind and then, the big moves and all that stuff. Like it was just horrible for the ticker for those 3 days in March when you're sitting there and, these kids got so much riding on it and they put in so much work and you're wanting all these great things for them. They're probably secretly laughing at the way that they tortured us with some of the finishes to some of those matches.
Yeah, there's some sadistic dudes. They love it,
They did. And the other thing that's funny, or not funny to me, but I found fascinating is even when we're in those late, deep moments, how confident you could see our guys were. And even as a staff where we were, a lot hung in the balance. But I'll use an example like with Parker. Parker's down at 1.5-1 in the third period and on bottom against the 5 seed Jack from NC State. Mm-hmm. And still never a doubt, in his face, knowing that he was going to win and what he had to do to get it done. So I was amazed at how in control they looked, no matter what the score was or how little time on the clock there seemed to be. They wrestled to the end and through the periods and made it go their way. So even though it was hard on us as observers, boy, they always looked in control and confident that they were going to get this done. They knew they were in shape and that they were going to wrestle through and find a way. And that was a lot of fun as a coach to see the confidence on their face in those situations.
Tony, you've dealt with some, you talk about dealing with torture. You've dealt with some torture over your years at Purdue. With I think we counted 9 guys going out in the blood round. 9, yeah. Losing the 2020 season due to COVID and not letting to see that group, finish its business. For you personally, what did it mean to you to get those guys up there and have the weekend that the team had?
Yeah, it's just very gratifying because, right, you're in the room daily with them, and it's a year-round process, right? Like we've already started on next year with that group. You're back in the room and you're going. And so when you understand how much work and time goes into it, and emotion, it's extremely gratifying. I mean, if you look at some of those pictures, I got ear-to-ear smiles for those guys. And so you're just so proud that they reached, some big goals for them and big goals for the program too. Those are big things. And we struggled this year as a dual for different reasons. We've talked about injuries and youth of the group, but to still see everybody come through and do their best wrestling at the end, which is what it's about for us, was awesome. And it makes you feel good as a coach. The line that gets used sometimes for nationals is it's weddings and it's funerals. That's the way you look at it, right? Like it's weddings when those guys reach their goals, man, you are so happy and proud for them to see, get what they want. And at the same time, there's heartbreak for others because a lot of others don't get there and they still put in the time and effort, and I'll use a guy like, we're going to talk a lot about Matt and Parker, but like Kendall, who all year had just a tremendous year and was disciplined and worked hard and gave you everything he had. That's tough. That's hard on Kendall. It's hard on us. It's hard on us when you see a young man give you everything he's got and he was just short. So, it's weddings and it's funerals to kind of just frame it as a picture. That's somewhat jokingly, right? I don't want to offend anybody with funerals, but that's what feels. You give everything. And when you get there, boy, you're really excited and happy. And when you come up short, man, it's hard. It's hard. And so when you go back and you think about 9 guys in the blood round and short for different reasons, and that's tough because you know what goes into it. And then even, that year for COVID, 4 guys seated top 6, no doubt in my mind, there was All-Americans in there. And what's even worse is guys like Leidy and Bruner didn't get those years back.
Yeah.
So that hurts your heart, right? Again, almost a lifetime of work is snatched from you, right? Taken for different reasons. So, and again, not a doubt in my mind that we had guys like Leidy and Bruner, who were going to be All-Americans. And of course, Kendall and Devin were in that group too. So yeah, it's gratifying and you like to see that pay off. And again, right, to have a guy like Matt in the room, Parker did it and he will help guys because he's still around. He's going to mentor guys and help them this spring. But, to have Matt back in the room, I think that helps the program as well. So, yeah, big weekend for us on a couple of different fronts.
Just throwing some numbers in perspective for people. Finished tied 20th as a team. Purdue's first top 20 finish since I just had this up and I'm going to lose. What did I say? 03?
03.
Yeah, it was our best team finish since 06. They were 20th as well. 2006, they were 20th.
Okay.
First time with 2 All-Americans since 2006. First time with an All-American since 2013. First national finalist since 2006. You could keep going on and on and on and on about what that, that little group, was able to do. Talking about the rest of the group, you only took, we only took 4, which has been, down from the trend. We'd had at least 7 for 5 years running. Took 4 guys. All 4 guys found a way to win a match at nationals. And it's a little thing, but it's a big thing, right?
Yep. Success, and I'll say, I've said this before, but the coach in me, I'd rather repeat myself and over communicate, right? You've got to sometimes celebrate the small things. Like you say, hey, everybody won a match, but one of those guys was a freshman who was there for the first time, and that experience will pay him back. He found a way to get his hand raised on a big stage, and we've got 3 more years with him. So you hope that translates into excitement, and he's going to rededicate himself, do more, and have a better tournament next year. So to me, right, there's big things to celebrate, and then there's small things, and all of them are important, to those kids.
Yes, absolutely. Let's dive into some of the individual performances. We just talked about Hayden Kopis went 1-2, earned a nice win over Travis Stefanik. As you said, just a freshman, going to be back. Kendall Coleman, 157 pounds, also went 1-2. Had a nice first round win. Ran into the 5 seed in the second round, Josh Humphreys from Lehigh, and lost a tight one to him. Once again in a crazy scramble that he initiated, and so on and so forth. And then had gave up a late takedown to exit the tournament on the backside. You can't say enough good things about Kenny. I mean,
yeah.
He is one of the guys over the last few years who's brought a lot of national attention to our program. Obviously, a ton of fun to watch wrestle. Finished with over 300 takedowns in his career. Just all in all, just everything that, tell us about everything that Kenny has given to the program.
Kenny's the man. Like, he got in a unique, exciting style that is just awesome and fun to watch. That's great for the sport, to have that kind of excitement on the mat and that kind of ability to score. And so he's been awesome in that way. And then again, just to know what he gave you, you know what I mean? And he had that middle patch in his career, right? Like, he started off like a whirlwind. Just people didn't know who he was, and just, went to the 5 seed maybe as a freshman at nationals, Big Ten runner-up. And then in the middle of his career, of course, you had COVID, but there was injuries and just all kinds of adversity for Kenny. And so to get back to this year and be really disciplined, like how he handled his weight and how he trained and the results that he got was impressive. So he's done a lot for us. And even though I know he was short of his ultimate goals, there's a lot to be proud of for him, and a lot of foundation left for this program. And one of my goals in the middle of this year, when we were on the struggle bus a bit, at least from a duel, and you got a lot of young guys, was, hey, we want to make sure the foundation of the program's firm, strong, solid, however you want to look at it. Like, that has to be built and be, built in the right way. And Kenny was one of the guys who had helped us build that. So appreciative for him. And he's got to know that this years down the road will be paying. He can be proud of what he's seeing and paying him back.
I remain less than satisfied with his national seed, and we can always play into what if and where it would have gone if that would have gone a little different. And it's kind of a sidetrack here, but I do think there's a conversation to be had about. I feel like there's so much weight placed on the conference tournaments, and I still don't understand it from a national seeding perspective. And, you saw Kendall, you take him specifically, you saw him, top guy in the country all season, ranked in the top
season,
top 8 front to back.
Yep.
Yeah. Anywhere from 3 to 5 for a majority of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. And
because he was performing, not just, he wasn't getting by on reputation. No. He went out there and was doing it.
Beat real guys. He goes to Big Tens. He loses to the kid who's the eventual, national runner-up.
Yep.
In a scramble.
In a crazy 3-2 final in the semis.
Gets his bell rung in his next match, and finishes.
I don't feel like was really out there.
No.
We certainly were talking about it. He got hit in the head pretty hard and got his bell rung, had stitches because of it, and no doubt.
Yeah, it's and as a result, you drop him down to the 12. He's 3 seeds behind a guy that he was 2-0 against on the year.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, without going too far away from everything else we're talking about, the way the way those conference tournaments are weighted in the selection process has been interesting.
For sure. And we can do another show on seeding, right? I mean, we could do a whole nother show on seeding and who got slided, who didn't, who received some things they shouldn't have, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like I said, I just don't want to detract because that's out of Kendall's hands, right? I mean, that's right. At the end of the day, we can debate it, and I'm going to agree with you, right? I mean, we know where we're at, but that's out of Kendall's hands, and all he can focus on is his own business. And I'll tell you what, the kid did a good job taking care of his business majority of the year. And it's just small things, right? It's a one scramble you lose, you know what I mean? Changes the tournament. And so, he should still be proud. And I'm sure everybody is, right? He's just a great kid and been a great model for our program. So, I'll send him off with a lot of gratitude for his hard work and appreciation for what he's done.
100%. We'll go to a senior, Parker Filius, came back for the 6th year and found a way to get what he wanted.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about Parker, people that have not been around maybe don't know, like obviously Parker dropped a couple matches earlier in the year, and we've always talked about his hit list being strong. So we knew he was capable, but I don't know if many people knew how good he was and maybe the mindset that he had put himself in. If you watch Big Tens all the way through, you had a really good inkling that he was wrestling really well. And I know we talked about it, but I just think even as a staff, we were really impressed about emotionally and where his headspace was that last month of the season. Like he was very strong in his belief and then even in control of his mind and in his emotions. And that's what it takes, like to execute under the toughest of conditions, which is what you have to do at nationals. You got to really be in control of yourself emotionally too, that mindset. And I thought he was really good, especially that last month of the season, that not only, knowing he's capable, but man, being in control of it through every match. And that was awesome to see. The one example I'll give to people too, in that second round match, the 5 seed again, he's down 5-1 and he's cool as a cucumber, and he knows, you can see in his face, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get a takedown. I'm going to get on him. We're going to get this done. Mm-hmm. And never wavered in that in his eyes. So I thought that was really impressive. And if you want, he beat up Cleveland Belton, Oregon State young man who's talented, very good kid, had beaten Parker at Vegas. Mm-hmm. And he rolled, that's 8-2 or 8-3, I think, and just looked supremely in command. Followed it up with late match heroics against Jack, and then again, Swiderski, right? Never, down early with a takedown, but you could see him building, and it's coming. And then by the time he got to his placing match, he had such confidence. Like he was down early against D'Amelio, but you never sweated it. Late in the match, he takes control and gets it done in overtime. So really impressed with not only that he wrestled very well, but never out of control of his emotions and understanding that he wasn't ever out of the match.
Just to walk people through Parker's tournament as the 12 seed, as Coach said, first round, Oregon State, Cleveland Belton put up an 8-3 win. Second round, 5 seed, Ryan Jack from North Carolina State trailed 5-1 going into the third period and pulled out a 7-6 victory. Lost in the quarterfinals to Nebraska's Brock Hardy.
Yep.
Came back in the backside in the blood round. Pinned Casey Swiderski at the 6-minute mark. Lost a tight one to Cale Carlson of South Dakota State in the next round, and finished off in the 7th place match with an 8-4 sudden victory win over Ohio State's Dylan D'Amelio. Yep. It's so amazing. You talked a little bit about Parker's headspace, and you talked about, one of the things that the headspace was something that kind of plagued Parker throughout his career. He could get in and out of mindsets that would take him in and out of matches. To see him put that all together for that weekend, how satisfying is that as a coach and the other staff members and for everything you guys poured into Parker?
Yeah, I mean, it very satisfying, and it takes you way back. It's like raising your kids, right? I mean, you look back on their life, and maybe they graduate high school, and it forces you to look back and think about everything, and it does the same for Parker, where you think about his journey, where he's up at 49, which was his wrong weight class, and we had to get him back down to 41. The discipline that takes as a big kid, how he had to change his lifestyle and those things, and qualified for nationals every year, but still a little short, right? And because of, hey, it takes 3 days of really being dialed in and not wavering, and to see him, kind of push any past history aside and really focus on the job at hand. And just the process of what he had to do to win was like I said, was impressive. And I go back to all of those things from when he first came in, trying to figure out what it's going to take to be successful, to wondering, can I do this? To making decisions that, yes, I want to do this. And then he's putting in place the lifestyle and the work ethic needed. And then finally everything comes together for him. That's where you get really excited for that. And that's where I go, as I think back when you say, hey, how satisfying is that? That's where my head goes immediately.
Fun story about Parker. We're the national tournament. I'm sure we've talked about this a little bit, but as people may or may not know, like, just because you have one guy do something doesn't take away, like, all of a sudden you've got some other guy doing something and you've got to transition from one moment to the other. And, we've got our variety of staff members there and we all have our different jobs and we're all trying to do things. And so after Matt Ramos finished his quarterfinal match, or no, it was a semifinal match.
Yeah, semi.
Big one. I'm with Matt in the back with ESPN and the press conference and so on and so forth, and trying to get through him through all the things he has to do. Parker's wrestling in the blood round.
Yeah.
So I'm in the press conference with Ramos. He's up on the podium. He's got all the people talking to him and asking him questions. I've got my phone in the back watching Parker. And Parker locks up and hits his whip over on Swiderski and has him on his back. And so I'm squirming and getting excited and trying to be quiet and whatnot. I go over to Leroy Vega and I bump him and I show him what's going on. And as I show it to him, Parker gets the fall. And so we're losing our minds over here in the side of the press conference, and we get some dirty looks from people. And Matty looks at us and we're like, hey, Parker got it done, Matty. He's All-American.
Yeah.
So, then Matty starts getting all excited and whatnot. And so, of course, in Ramos's excitement, he turns and sprints out of the press conference. They finish up.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on the complete other side of the arena. So we're going halfway around the BOK. And, and we're chasing Ramos because, of course, that's, guy starts running, everybody starts running.
Yeah.
And, the old guys are all out of breath and the young guys are all happy. And it was a pretty fun scene to see him and Ramos celebrate together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That big hug.
No doubt. And that was a great moment, and the coach and me, right? I'm the one worrying about, Matt wins, gets the upset, momentous, upset. And then, but then immediately we're like, all right, Parker's up in about 15-20. And so you're like, you got to get Parker back in the right headspace, keep him focused. Can't let him, be too happy for Matt because, hey, we got work to do. And so it was about a crazy half hour from Matt conclusion to Parker coming out and getting it done. And I'm, like I said, super glad it happened because it's weddings and it's funerals otherwise, right? You could have gone from the highest of high to, oh my goodness, and so that was a great half hour for me personally, and just glad that, again, distractions for everybody. Those are distractions. Your teammate does something momentous. You got to go out and perform. You got to get right back in it. And that's why, like I said, I thought Parker was great at just containing, his emotions and his thoughts and staying focused on the job at hand.
And it blows my mind a little bit. You just talked about it being like a half hour, and in the moment it seemed much shorter. It seemed like it all kind of happened all together. But the reality was it was a full, like 30 minutes of doing all kinds of different things. And like you said, managing emotions and getting one guy ready for the next thing, and the staff having to split up to do two different things. And it was to think that all that happened in 30 minutes is a little wild.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's that roller coaster ride we were talking about. Only that was all good, right? I mean, that was all good at that time. So that was a ride you like to get on,
Yeah,
for sure.
One quick note before we move on from Parker. I love just looking back and ready for the show. His seventh place match against Dylan D'Amelio was the 8-9 match in the first round at Big Tens this year.
Yeah.
So these two cats that are All-Americans that are wrestling for placement on the podium, they were first round opponents in the Big Ten because that's the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I hope and I think most people understand that, but that's exactly right. That is the Big Ten. It is such a grind, You know what I mean? First round's kind of a blood round match or an All-American placing match, right? You just know that's what it is at Big Tens, and that's what I love about it. I think that's a lot of our kids love that too. But you have to embrace that. If you don't, this is not the place for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was Corey. That's a very crazy and very interesting point to bring up. And you saw a lot of that at Big Tens last year. There was a match at another weight where the rematch of last year's finals was a 6-11 match in the first round.
Yep.
So that was kind of another crazy circumstance that kind of throws into that narrative of how insane the Big Ten can be.
For real.
Yep.
Last and certainly not least, I think people have probably heard of Matt Ramos at this point.
Yeah, he's got a few mentions on social media. I'm not sure what it's up to now, but it was pretty wild beyond my imagination of how many people watched across all the different, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. There were large numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, people have said this is the biggest or one of the biggest upsets in NCAA tournament history. For those that live under a rock, Matt Ramos pulled off the improbable as the 4 seed got to the semifinals in, as we mentioned before, heart-wrenching fashion. And we'll go through the first couple rounds, but took out 3-time defending national champion Spencer Lee from Iowa in the semis, put him on his back in the final 15 seconds and got the fall. Had 4 backs coming, would have won the match anyway. But could you have imagined anything like that, Tony?
I mean, yes, you do. I mean, you do. I mean, listen, you never slap your guy on the rear end and send him out expecting a loss. That just doesn't happen.
Sure.
I mean, clearly climbing a mountain, right? But completely, we did genuinely, felt like we were the better guy on our feet. And if you can limit opportunities from top, meaning Spencer on top, we had a really good chance. And so as the match kept progressing, you felt even better about it. I mean, I'm just telling you, and then maybe we're jumping off topic, but yes, I can imagine it. We knew we can score from our feet. We knew we had a good game plan, going in. We felt good. We felt good about all that. You still realize how good Spencer Lee is, right? And
Sure.
It's like, man, all props to Spencer. I mean, tremendous career, a lot of respect for him and the things he's had to go through in his career. So all respect for Spencer. But we felt really good about our guy. And so you get into the match and we hit the double leg and then we get 4 points and we get 2 and 2. And then we defend. Spencer wants to put himself on top and Matt defends well. Doesn't give him the single leg. And not only does he do that, he starts working the upper body on him. And we can see Spencer getting a bit uncomfortable with that. To finish the first period 4-1, you're like, okay, man, we're really in a great spot. Okay. Spencer takes top. He only gets the 1 turn. And then, this sounds weird. You get turned, but we're like, all right, man, we did what we had to do here.
Right.
It's back to feet. Now we can put ourselves back in a position to win. And, so you just kept feeling better and better as the match went. And of course we felt good about the matchup. I'm not telling you hey, I'm not saying 100% we were winning that match. No, but right. we felt really good. There was nobody that was we can't win this match. That was not our sentiment at all. And certainly you've listened to Matt, he's don't be surprised, because he knew in the duel he got up big and he kind of took him aback and maybe he quit wrestling a bit, right? He took his foot off the gas and even he was hey, I'm not being surprised. So that's why I say, no, we weren't surprised, but hey, that's certainly, you understand what kind of an upset it was.
I definitely wanted to let you talk through that.
Me too.
Because everything was just awesome that you just said, but I think more of my, I think more of the intent of my question was more of the atmosphere and the feeling and the way that we all reacted. And and the moment kind of after it finished.
No, and that's fair, right? I mean, again, like the moment, because of what happened with the crowd as well, right? Like the energy in the building, right? Because of who Spencer is and what he had done, the energy of the building was crazy. And you're in the match, and we're feeling really good, like I just described. We're feeling really good about opportunities, and just how the energy was at the end was the awesome part about it. You know what I mean? And it just gets everybody excited, including us as coaches. I tried to break my hand a few times hitting the mat and call the fall for the officials. So no, you're right. The energy of that was tremendous. That's why you wrestle. That's why you go to college. Like we tell the guys, this is why you go to college, man. You want that. You don't want to fear moments like that. You want to embrace that. And clearly Matt had done that.
Corey, I know you and I have talked about this, and Tony mentioned it a little bit. There were a variety of videos from different angles and different positions on the end of that match, and being able to watch them various times and concentrate on a different person.
Yeah.
From Purdue, whether it was you, Tony, whether it was AJ, whether it was Vega, whether it was Ramos, whether it was Ryan Salerno, like seeing all these different people and their reactions to what was going on was nothing short of incredible. And if you haven't done that as a fan, I highly encourage it to go back, check the different angles, check the different, the different videos that came out, and watch the way people reacted, because it's hilarious.
It's awesome. Yeah. The night of the event, somebody from the upper deck posted, just a fan video on social, and it was the first time I was able to see the whole corner. On TV, you can see a little bit going on back there, and I hadn't seen the angles that our guy Lars got, who did a phenomenal job, by the way.
Yes, he did.
Seeing that angle from up top, seeing you popping down on the mat, like you said, trying to break your hand, AJ next to you doing the same thing, Leroy over there doing the same. You got three guys calling a pin in the corner. You finally pop back up to your feet. It's just like, you guys were such a joy to watch, see that moment unfold. And we work together, so we know each other a little bit, and the more you know somebody, the more you know how invested they are in something. And I know the investment that you guys, the time, the commitment that all of you put into these moments for it to pay off for all of you it's so cool to see.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. I mean, that was awesome, because it's for everybody, right? Yeah. I mean, obviously Matt did all the heavy lifting, and rightfully so. But you talk about AJ, and you talk about Vega, who those guys are small guys, smaller lightweight coaches. They've invested a ton of time on the mat with him as well. Salerno, who's every step of the way the trainer, like Tanner, who takes care of these guys, right? Like, the investment from everybody. When you say it takes a village, that's right. And to see something like that come to fruition is big. And you don't always get those moments. So when you do, you want to capitalize.
I'm really glad you talked about the game plan. I wanted to ask you about that. Of course, it was up to Matty to execute it, and he did flawlessly.
Yep.
But to come up with, like, it played out exactly how it needed to play out. Like you said, playing, getting on bottom in the second, knowing what that's going to have to be, stayed wide, kept his base, limited the damage. And then the review, which we'll keep our opinions of how that review came out to ourselves for fear of people being upset with us. But even the review, I think, it allowed everything to reset a little bit, focus on the last 40 seconds, and here we go.
Yeah. And I would say the review at the time, right? Like I'm really upset, because not only did I believe Spencer was out, foot went out, maybe came back in, but they had a whistle. And I've said this, I talked with the NCAA guys. There was a whistle, and both officials called no takedown. And I was like, hey, doesn't matter if his foot looks like it in at the end, because the whistle was already blown. That's all dead. But there was not an answer of are they going to hear the whistle up top? Like, they see the video, but I don't know if they had sound. And so, it was interesting to me that not only did it look like his foot went out to come back in, but I thought the whistle blew everything dead before his foot may have settled back in.
Well, and like you said, in the moment, I could hear it on the broadcast because I'm sitting in my living room watching this, not in the BOK arena. Like you said, in the moment, you hear the whistle, you relax.
Yep. Yeah, everything's dead after that.
Maybe there's a takedown after the whistle, but it doesn't count because the whistle.
Right. But once you get past that, like I said, like I'm upset, but we still came back to, man, like, listen, we're still right where we want to be. Okay. When the whistle, when it blows, no matter, we're moving, right? And it had Matt's sense of urgency, the way I would say. Matt would say, hey, just keep moving. Like that, his word to himself was just keep it moving. Yep. And when the whistle blew, he got it moving. And I don't know if his sense of urgency would have been the same if there was no takedown. He might have said, hey, I got time. Let's
just down one, we're good.
That whistle blew and he got it moving. And so got to his feet, still kept his wrist free, didn't give him the wrist. On the mat return, executed the roll like he should. And now it's wrestling, right? Now it's a mad dash where Spencer felt like he wanted to move into us, which helped us out, and everybody's seen the head pinch to threaten the arm. So I thought at the end it actually helped Matt maybe a bit because that sense of urgency increased in his head, like I gotta go and I gotta go now. And that kind of led us to where he finished.
You saw a lot of that narrative on social media and from some of the various media members in the community about how that all went down. And so that's it's a really interesting way to look at it, but it's there's definitely some truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it that way too, partly because it went your way.
Right.
If it doesn't go our way and we gave it the takedown, we get rode out, I'm probably singing a different story. I mean, I understand that, but I truly believe, like, if you look at Matt's tournament too, and why I bring it up, when Matt's sense of urgency to wrestle was high, he scored.
Yep.
Double OT, second round, NC State. We got to cut a guy. Like, it's either ride him out to go to OT again or cut him and take him down. And he cut him, and his sense of urgency was high, and he went and he scored with little to no time. He got he got taken down by Cardinale. He had to get the reverse or get the escape. His sense of urgency was high, and he scrambles out for two and wins the match. So that's where I'm at with it. Like, when his sense of urgency was high, man, he was hard to stop. And so now for us, then that, like I said, how the takedown went down, it got a sense of urgency high. My thing now is, how do I keep that sense of urgency in Matt until the day he hangs up his wrestling shoes?
Yeah.
Because then he's a really bad man. And he knows that because we've talked about it. Like, when his sense of urgency to go score and create is high, he's a bad man. So.
Yeah, 7 minutes of that would be terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, 7 minutes of that wouldn't go 7 minutes a lot of times, I don't think.
Right? So for me, right, that's where we want to go.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I'm thinking about it. That's why it's on my head.
Well, that's what's next for him,
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Tony, you started to get into some of it. It would be remiss to only focus on the Spencer Lee match, because every single match he wrestled in the tournament was a nail biter. 1 point win in the first round, 1 point win in the second round, 1 point win in the quarterfinals. He just found ways to win.
Yeah. And there is something to absolutely be said for that, especially in the last tournament of the year, no doubt, right? Something to be said for that. And I'll tell you, the match I'm most upset with him about, if we're going to pick on it, right? Because we're talking about a cardiac kid. That first match, especially against the Stanford guy, he took him down early, and then he kind of shut it down and got a little cute with it. And now he's doing the splits on the edge of the mat at the very end, right? Like, he left that in doubt a little bit. And so that's where, you want him to understand, like, hey, we won, feel good about it. But no, man, like, that's the wrong approach. Like, we got to change that. And you did see him getting better as the tournament went on. And I thought his best match was the semi. He was forced to stay aggressive throughout for different reasons, and he did, and he really made it go his way.
Yeah. No, there's
the margin, man. The margin is paper thin.
Yeah.
Paper thin between a first round loss to a 29 seed and one of the biggest upsets in tournament history.
Absolutely. And Tanner talked about, right, like Kendall Coleman. The margin of, he lost a scramble to the 5 who went on to place really high. That's the margin between Kendall being high up on the podium and not. and dissatisfied as we all are, but that's also the beauty of sports. I'll say that, that there is a beauty in that. It's gut wrenching. And 25 years of national championships, I've had a lot of both.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of really great memories, like what Matt did and Jordan Burroughs and other guys and then there's a lot of heartbreak too, but I think that's part of the beauty of it. And I every year we'll keep investing at the same level because it's worth it.
Yeah. I think, the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on regarding nationals, and I think that this was pretty cool for me. The trip home, Tony, we got up the next morning, we got up Sunday and loaded up the cars and drove back to Oklahoma City and got to the airport. But it was the way people approached us, and whether it was you or Matt or just anybody wearing Purdue gear and had things to say, and we're excited about Matt and we're excited about our performance as a team. Like it was surreal to see the way people and the wrestling community kind of embraced Purdue.
Yeah, it was great. And I think Matt, being who he is too, right, was awesome, right? Just very down to earth, easy to talk to, great, gracious kid, what I mean? So I thought that was awesome. And I appreciated too, like some of the best things we got were some from Iowa fans, and still, right, heartbreak for Spencer on their end. They absolutely wanted to see their man win. But at the end, reaching out and saying, hey, love your guy, Matt, met him, we got an email. I think it was sent to our AD, Mike Bobinski, and it even said, hey, met him in the airport, loved your guys, represents your school and your athletic department tremendously, really, happy, heartbreak for our guy. True. But here were things, enjoyed talking to him and how they represented Purdue. You guys should be really happy. And that means a lot to a coach. The winning is great. But for me, it's still not a zero-sum game, right? Like it's not win or nothing, and this isn't the NBA or the NFL. These young men, right, all go on to jobs and lives. And so it's not a zero-sum game. So those things do mean a lot. You sacrifice everything to get your hand raised and be on that podium at the end of the year, but those things still matter. And I thought that was a really great thing that came out of, him winning and how he was greeted and some of those interactions.
I thought there was a photo on social media of Maddie and Spencer sitting before their award presentation, shaking hands.
Yep.
And it's a really cool moment as far as like looking at, you talk about the sportsmanship between two guys who just put it all out there and made history very positively for one and negatively for another. But no, it was pretty awesome to see just strangers kind of coming up to our kids and saying congrats and, handshakes and autographs and pictures and all kinds of stuff as they, as we traveled back, to West Lafayette.
Yeah, no doubt. It was cool. It reminds you a lot. Again, it's a lot about what's good in sport. There is heartbreak on one side, but you want to risk that. I think there's beauty in that, and the work and the discipline and everything that goes into it is awesome. And so that other side of the coin, when you're done, to have respect, and you got to earn respect. Spencer ain't going to give respect to a guy who hasn't earned it. You know what I mean? Right. That's my opinion. You got to go earn it. And so to see those guys acknowledge that, on some level was good. That's what's great. Again, it's what's probably best about sports.
In closing on that, there was one other interaction that, I'd like Tony to bring up about the fact that we had somebody approach us and they were like, "Oh, your tournament was great, but that's not why we want to say hi." Do you remember this one, Tony?
No, you're 87 conversations ago. Bring this up. Refresh my memory.
We had somebody approach us in the airport in Oklahoma City who was a fan of the podcast.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Love it.
Yes. I was like, that was a lot of yes. So to give you guys your props. No, and Corey, you weren't there. Tanner was there. So I think I actually rubbed Tanner's bald head. like a crystal ball. I'll call her young lady. You know what I mean? Very nice woman came up and had some very nice comments about the podcast.
She from North Carolina?
She was wearing North Carolina gear. We didn't have long enough to talk as we were walking about where she was from, but she did state that she really enjoyed the podcast. So Corey, you'd have got your head rubbed too if you were there, buddy.
I love it.
But I know Tanner felt really good about that. And that was just very random because everything was about, our guys, like, hey, 2 All-Americans and Matt and the upset. And that was great. And this young lady came up and said, hey, love the podcast. And I was like, wow, wow, here we go. So congrats to you two guys.
We've had that before, but it's usually people with the last name Ersland or parents of current and former wrestlers. So
right.
That's fantastic to hear.
Yes. Thank you for refreshing that though, Tanner. That one did come up for sure. That was awesome.
It was pretty funny. So all in all, an amazing trip to Tulsa. A heck of an exclamation point on a crazy year.
Yep.
And I mean, I'll never forget it. I know that much. I know that, when I will never forget where I was when Matt Ramos pinned Spencer Lee, and when, Parker Filius got his stamp to become an All-American. Those were pretty incredible moments.
Yeah, and I think as a coach, what has me excited too, especially with this young group, and we've got some really talented kids coming in. I mean, people who know who our signing class is. There's some really talented kids there, as well as some very good kids, that were young kids new to the lineup. I'm excited about what this can do for them because there's multiple examples here of a guy like Parker who is just a grinder and has paid dues and gotten better every step of the way. And they can see what that discipline and that stick to it kind of mindset has done. Mm-hmm. And then you have a guy like Ramos, who was probably as big an underdog in a semifinal as anybody. What that belief and knowing your why, and hey, don't be surprised when I win, right? If you watch his interviews, don't be surprised, and what that does for you when you have talent like he does, but then the belief in how he was talking to himself and what that's done for him. So I think there's a lot of great things for our young men to learn, both from a work ethic standpoint as well as how you talk to yourself and create the belief that you need.
Corey, I think that's a pretty good way to leave this.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll have future conversations working on. We're efforting getting Matt and Parker on the show in coming weeks. So it'll be really fun to go through this again from their perspective. And I'd love, Tony, not for today, but to put a little historical context on this thing as well, because it's a really interesting conversation to have too.
It is. And I'll tell you this, because I did take a few days of vacation the week after as well, and had a lot of people come up and say things to me as they do. I've tried to almost like stay out of it, right? Like I coach Matt, I'm biased, in that regards, I already consider myself very biased because he's our guy. And so I've almost tried to let other people, historians, people like you, people in that realm who follow it, kind of make their judgments or assessments on that. Certainly I love it. I'm excited for it. And it was really big. No denying that it was big. I almost just take a back seat to that conversation because that's our guy. Yes. I'm going to support our guy, and that's a big deal. So I almost kind of remove myself a bit from that conversation, I guess.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I know we're going super long here. I was having a conversation.
It's a big tournament. It can be a long show.
Right. People want to hear it. I was talking with William Soleil the other day, and I was throwing out matches and names throughout the years, and he's like, you know what? I don't give a damn. It's Matt Ramos. Yeah. He's like, he's my guy, and until I'm not working in this industry anymore, it'll be Matt Ramos. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So I respect your stance there. For
there
sure.
You go.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Great conversation. Great to hear all about this fantastic performance at Nationals from the both of you. Thank you for that. And we will look forward to hearing from the hearing from the guys themselves here in coming weeks